Welcome to episode 10, everybody.
Episode 10, Stephen.
Let's fucking go. This is the last time I get to do one of these. Like, from now on, like, what will I have to bring up my toes, my foot, and make sure that we get all episodes accounted for on the extremities.
The extremities.
Yes,
we don't want to go
sir.
too far with it, though. If you know what... Never mind. Shut up, Alec.
I wanted to do something more Eric Andre-esque, but we have to keep it a little bit age-appropriate and relevant to podcast Elrond, right?
we just figured we would be as absurd as Eric Andre today. You know, just try to keep the energy alive.
Well, you know, if we're too quiet, I don't think anybody's going to feel our hype and excitement. We're in a bear market. I guess it's kind of official. I mean, I'm a perma-bull, so I'm always like, oh, well, we're not in a bear market. I think that it might be a nail in the coffin over the last week.
Especially if you pay attention to the stock market. Bitcoin, as you know, closely follows the way the stock market does, the Dow Jones and all that. And today, the market has had its worst day since 2020. So we're definitely entering a bear market, I would say, Stephen. Stocks are going down. Facebook is down like 40-something%. Netflix 70-something%. It's a weird world to be in. And not to mention Bitcoin down, 45%?
Yeah, Bitcoin is down just a little bit. I made a post yesterday about how the last time a certain indicator was bullish, and it was $18,000 higher than we are now at like 48,000. So I don't know, like, I guess that shocked me because I'm so prepared for just complete and utter destruction. Not to say I know the future and that might not continue to kind of play out here, but I'm still kind of just like preparing for the worst. And even though that $18,000 difference from the last time surprised me, I was still a little bit like, it still kind of made me feel good because it's like, oh, like, I feel like things could be much worse, you know?
I agree with you. I think things could be much worse as well. I feel like Bitcoin's holding up pretty well, still staying around that $29,000, $30,000 area, you know, just holding its own. Now, that's not to say that it can't go lower, which I'm going to go ahead and say it just might. But yeah, man, it's a sad day in all markets, and I guess you just got to learn how to weather the storm and make a plan for these kind of conditions, because the only way you can make it through is if you're prepared.
Yeah, and both prepared from a risk standpoint of managing your wealth, your income, where your money's situated, but a lot of the time, you know, that just comes with that mental game of, you know, just being aware, being prepared, and being exposed for, you know, the positive situations, but also be protected for any time something unexpected happens, perhaps like to the downside.
Are you doing any risk mitigating things? I know we are both pretty heavily invested within the Elrond ecosystem. I continue to keep my full bag. Actually, I have done some risk mitigation myself. I've unpaired all my LP tokens. It begun to get too dangerous. I started losing EGLD like crazy because, as we all saw, MEX kind of took a dive, man. And so I decided to unpair, put my whole EGLD bag into regular delegate staking, and now I have my whole MEX bag just earning locked MEX all the time, because I'm hopeful for new MEX economics and what that might bring. But back to my question, are you doing any risk mitigation?
Sure. The strategy I tend to take is not so much my target was hit, so I'm going to take profits. I basically, over the past whole year, I've just been taking profits to pay for my life, and at that point, I haven't done anything. I've reallocated a few positions within the DEX, but other than that, I haven't sold anything more than I would regularly. So yes, I've sold, but if you're new to the channel, you maybe don't know that I quit my job a year ago, so I've been depending on my investment and my savings in cryptocurrency to keep me afloat. So my strategy is very subjective to my own situation, and so nothing out of the ordinary. But you know, we might get into it a little bit. But today, the ZOIDPAY dispersed some ZPay tokens to liquidity providers. So I mean, I basically earned enough ZPay today for, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say numbers because that's not what it's about. But I mean, it would be several months worth of work for anybody working in the real world. So that was something that has helped me, as well as the lock MEX that I traded over to Elrond. Again, this isn't a dog on lock MEX. It never was. It's just with me and my strategy where I'm at, I value the liquidity over having this locked asset that requires a little bit more patience, requires a little bit more trust. So it's every day is new, every day is different. And honestly, like logging into Maiar DEX, I think after Elrond fell below 100, I was like, oh, I'm not logging into Maiar DEX again until Elrond is above 100. But honestly, like I said, I've been preparing for the worst, and even though my portfolio is down over 50%, I feel great. And the only thing that I'll attach at the end is this is what happens whenever your strategy is long term and you trust the process, because I invested heavily and took risks, years in the making, because I didn't ever want to be scared about any capitulation ever again. So it could get worse, but I'm pretty happy that so far I'm not shivering in my boots quite yet.
Nice,
Fingers
man.
crossed.
That's really good to hear, man. Yeah, I basically feel the same way. It was never my life savings or anything, so it's just a matter of hanging on and continuing to invest. And I bought on the dip all the way down at 80.
I saw that.
Yeah, I wish I bought at like 76. I knew I should have, but who knows? It might very well make a return back down there. But I'm going to continue to try to support my position every chance I get, because I just keep seeing posts, like this is where success is made. Not financial advice, but these things are on deep discounts, man. And if you believe in the product, if you believe in the technology, then you know what I'm talking about.
100%. And you mentioned in the last episode that just like I have my own situation, as do you, and you've not been putting too much gunpowder or whatever they call it, dry powder, back into the market. And I think that it's great that you were able to buy lower, because up until we spoke last, you were sitting pretty, being happy with farming and letting your Maiar DEX just float on. So you can always say, oh, I wish I would have bought a little bit lower. But again, what you kind of emphasize there, it's like you bought on a discount. And I think with that feeling you express, like, oh, I kind of wish I would have bought a little bit lower. But I mean, that leads me to believe that, you still have some extra cash laying around for if that dip does get down there, then you can be like, all right, I took advantage of it this time.
Yeah, man. I definitely am waiting for more dips. I got some dry powder waiting around. I'm ready to hit this thing, because I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. It's going back above 150. It's hitting $200 again one day. This is just the state of the market, man. So I mean, if I'm buying at like 76 and it goes back up to 200, good investment.
It's so funny that you just said those numbers that are really like kind of low, not relatively, because relatively, you're talking about a 2x from here, a plus 100% off of the prices we are if we were to get back above 200. But obviously, being episode 10, if you went back in time, you could see we started at 550, kind of that was our most recent top just after Maiar DEX. And, every step down, it's like you just kind of get familiar with that price level, and it really just does become relative. And at this point, Alec, you checking out your Maiar DEX and everyone out there as well, price is low, but there's the lower we go, it's like the more room we have to grow upwards. And a 2x from here is like $200. A 3x is $300. Like literally, we're talking a 5x back to all-time highs, which in previous episodes previous episodes and right now, it's like it's a no-brainer. Like we're going to make all-time highs at some point and beyond. So we're sitting here looking at Elrond at $90, $80, and talking well over a 5x just to get back to all-time highs. And to say that we're gonna stop at all-time highs, if you're here watching the podcast, you're hopefully getting the picture of Elrond's value. Where the potential of Elrond within the realm of cryptocurrency has, and the potential is immense. What else is there to say as per usual?
Well, 2x isn't really that crazy, but you know what is crazy, Stephen?
Are
A
you about to
down
say what I think?
a
Is it in the opposite
downside.
direction?
Yeah. A downside of 99.9% or more.
Man,
That's
gosh.
wild, bro.
And if you're
And
completely out of the loop, I mean, we're kind of laughing through it because it's crazy, but it's also really sucky what happened to the Terra Luna ecosystem. Man, oh man, I didn't know
blood.
anything. And until that happened, I heard about Luna, but I've always just been Elrond focused. So I saw and I acknowledged the hype of Luna, and I never ever took the bait, and that's why I didn't know anything about it. But I could not believe the reality that hit the markets through Luna.
And as I laugh, I don't mean to laugh at those people who lost their life savings. I'm laughing at the ridiculousness of it all.
The Wild West.
It took 3-4 days for it to make that kind of downturn. Like
Yeah,
there were people
it was
making
quick.
It was insane, dude. There were people making tweets about how their $2.6 million was now worth $26. I was like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
man.
man.
And
So,
Doquan, he just fled with all that money too.
so I think that I don't know what he did with it. It's such a complicated mess. It's interesting. I want you to say more about that if you know, because from what I understand, Do Kwon kind of got like screwed in it too. Like I think he might have reserves in Bitcoin as they tried to keep the peg of UST, but it was my understanding that Do Kwon was kind of just as capital F'd as everybody else. Obviously, probably not as much because of his position and because of his closeness to it. I'd be surprised if he didn't have his own type of insurance in terms of capital. But did you read that he was actually, he got out before everybody else got dumped on, literally?
Yeah, I think I did read about that, and that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That is that it seems like he was able to make sure he kept his bag and made sure he got away safe with all of this. I think
Man, I didn't know that. That's messed up.
there's like a 50,300 and something Bitcoin transaction to one single wallet, and I think that might have. I don't know the full details, so
Yeah.
I'm a little ignorant on this, but it does seem to lean in the direction of him making sure he was okay and good to go. Which, I mean, can you blame the guy? I mean, you're kind of used to the life of whatever kind of life that guy was living, and how
Yeah.
could you ever just let your bag go like that? But
Mm-hmm.
also, I believe Binance has halted trading on Luna
Mm-hmm.
altogether, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't dipped my toes much into Luna ever since it really capitulated to basically zero. So I'm not sure who's still trading it. I know that there was a lot of flack that exchanges were getting after everything really hit the fan. They were continuing, trading was resumed. Like it's not like it resumed, it never ended. Again, I was not invested in it at all, so when I started to see it tumble, I was like, oh dear, like this is bad. And I had kind of a 2 or 3 tweet thread where I was popping back over to the Luna chart, and every time, in the technical analysis terms, I saw Luna consolidate, I was like, all right, let's see if it can recover here. And then like I would look at it, after another 12 hours, and it was lower and lower. And I mean, again, I still did not understand Luna throughout this process of capitulation of this depegging event. So it got to a point where it was, I think I did buy at $1.50. And I'll put it out there because, again, it's on Twitter. That I put money in on $1.50, and it was a complete and total gamble because literally I saw the chart. It was dumping, and then randomly it shot up 1,000% and then continued to dump. But again, like I didn't understand this algorithmic stable coin mind fuck that was going on. I just knew that Terra Luna was a top 10 coin, and I figured that there might be a rip after the dip, and it was, I think a lot of people joined in at some point on the way down, and unfortunately I took a bit of an L. I lost $8,000. So that was not very fun, but it was actually, I tweeted about it, and then I'll let you say, but yeah, it was literally the feeling that I had from the money that I lost in Terra Luna literally felt worse than the entire way we dropped from 69 to where we are today. Like, I dare say there have been fewer times that I felt worse in my losses, because I literally didn't understand what I was doing, what I was getting in on. I just figured I'd take a gamble, and I took an L instead.
Yeah, dude, I saw those tweets, and I almost thought about joining in as well. I also saw a lot of people doing weighted short positions, or like I forget what it's called, but it's like you like 10x or leveraged short positions, and they were making. Yeah. There were a lot of people out there making some fucking bank on Luna too.
I'm
they
sure.
Like joined in at like $80 and just rode that bitch all the way back to $1. Excuse my language.
Our cussing is kind of flying today. We're just hyped on that episode 10 energy. For real.
Yes, we are, for sure, man.
I at least want to address a little bit for our viewers who may not know what happened, because in the midst of what did happen to Terra Luna and that stablecoin UST depegging event, I saw people questioning whether or not something like this could happen to Elrond. So I at least want to address a little bit about what happened, why it happened, and how that is not something that could translate to a protocol like Elrond.
Go for it, bro.
Cool. So I have just a short bit I'll read just from this article we'll put in the description. But very simply, I'll just read it for you here. It says UST, which is the stable coin of the Terra Luna ecosystem. UST is an algorithmic stablecoin and is operated via computer code that helps maintain its price equilibrium. Right, it really maintained, didn't it? The process involves burning or minting Luna UST to maintain the price of these tokens. When a UST is minted, $1 of Luna is burned, while this also happens the other way around for Luna minting and UST burning. As UST threatens to go below its peg, so underneath $1, holders will sell their UST or burn it for $1 of Luna, making a slight profit. This is until UST rises above $1 when the opposite encouragement happens. So this article goes on. Like I said, I'll put it in the description. But basically, there's other players that kind of stepped in to rub Do Kwon's nose in it because of his arrogance in the faults that existed within Terra. And there was a lot of manipulation that eventually started a cascade effect of the UST depegging and then Luna minting so that it could keep up with this depegging. So the algorithm, as UST, the stablecoin, was depegging and falling underneath $1, Luna this is just a math equation that just started printing, like the Fed burr. Like, Luna just started printing Luna like crazy. And because this was a very deeply ingrained issue with the protocol, literally, as Beniamin talked about in the town hall, it obviously, as we all saw, it yielded a complete and total collapse of the entire ecosystem. Like, it was a cascading event that literally, it was like just a domino fall. And I'm not sure if or when or at what point there could have been something to do to save what happened, but at the lows of this bear market, or where we're at in the bear market, the timing of this event was not ideal, but perhaps it was just, it was a recipe. It was just like the perfect storm event. And again, thoughts and heart goes out to everybody who lost greatly. And if you are maybe out there and you were a part of Terra, I hope that you can remain strong and continue to build and to grow and to move up from your mistakes, including myself.
And to give a perspective of how much was printed, at the time when previously the circulating supply of Luna sat around 345 million. As of May 13th, it was 6.5 trillion Luna.
Oh my gosh.
That's how
Yeah.
much flooded the market because of the USTD pegging in that mathematical equation.
The stablecoin in Luna caused for the asset to completely debase, and I guess there's some talk from founders and other contributors that they're gonna try to start a new Luna, like a Luna 2 or something. Like, I have no earthly idea, but you know, we always say NFA, but I'm going to give you financial advice. Like, stay away from Do Kwon and whatever garbage he brings back. He showed once that he's ignorant and arrogant, and I'm not sure. You know, you kind of reveal your cards once and people change, but I don't. I'm pro Elrond. I'm team Elrond. Hopefully everybody out there is understanding the value and what to look for, red flags. But I'm done with Luna. Like, and I think the majority of everybody is. I think it's done for in the long term.
I agree with you, Stephen. And speaking of Elrond, we finally got a town hall, Stephen. I believe we were requesting that in our last podcast, if I remember.
In the last episode, we were referring to, if we did, the episode 8, where I was surprised. I was like, damn, like, where the heck is Town Hall? I miss those.
Yeah, dude. And it's really good to see that they're back. But in my humble opinion, this
what
was
did you think of it?
This was like a town hall that was like a rallying the troops town hall and just kind of giving you an update of things you already know. Because I'm pretty sure there was nothing new that was told at the town hall, just things
That's
are
what
coming
I felt.
soon. Yeah, and he also said the MEX economic upgrades since the town hall is going to be like coming out in 1 to 2 weeks. So there's things to look forward to, but me personally, I didn't need a rallying. It's just good to see that, you know, the leader's still there. What do you think about it, Stephen?
Yeah, I definitely am in the same boat with you. It took a little bit of talking with people online and kind of, you know, getting a finger on the pulse of what the community felt. I'm not sure. I think it's kind of a clean 50-50 to where some people felt like it was a 10 out of 10 town hall. Some people, I think, were greatly disappointed. I was just very neutral. And when I say neutral, I was definitely immediately afterwards, I was like, okay, like, thanks for, like, so as you just mentioned, they being Beniamin, he tweeted in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And I know in previous episodes we've talked about how roadmaps are just kind of, you know, if it's written, then it'll get done eventually. And I think that that's kind of from my perspective, that's a separate thing, because he tweeted specifically, like, you know, specifically in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So I was like, darn it, like, I totally forgot to really kind of like speculate along with Alec to see and think about, what utility might they bring to MEX, because I genuinely, you know, I really did kind of believe Beniamin when he said 1 to 2 weeks we'll have it prepared and it'll be out. And according to that timeline, I think it was May 1st. So I was like, oh, damn, like, by the time Alec and I get back together, like, it's probably going to be out. It's probably going to be public knowledge. And I guess I misinterpreted this town hall. Apparently, it was a little bit more impromptu considering what happened to Luna, because I thought that the timing, according to that tweet, was perfectly aligned. It's like he said 1 to 2 weeks. It's been over that. But hey, we got a town hall, and as I tweeted about, I thought that it was going to be a MEX spectacle. And it was, I'll post a really awesome summary from Dr. Elrond, who was basically word for word going through and sharing that with everybody. So we'll put the link to the town hall as well as this text write-up. But yeah, it was definitely a rallying the troops, and you know, it was good for, I think, a lot of people just to see the CEO of Elrond be willing to step up in front of a camera, go live, and to share where things are and just give confidence that they're still there. And it was not a MEX spectacle. I don't think that there was anything particularly new that he talked about. Nonetheless, there was value to be derived from it in one way or another.
I've just been noticing a change in Benjamin's presence on Twitter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just noticed that he's been taking shots at the big dog, especially with one of his tweets today. He was
Oh
talking
yeah.
about here. Let me pull it up. So Benjamin said, recalibration time. Cracked me up to see many tokens in the top coin market cap list are basically ghost and make absolutely no sense. So break
Mm-hmm.
top 30 next 1 to 2 weeks. Then take
Wait, he
on
said,
Litecoin.
I totally missed that.
Yeah, dude, like it's really strange. And then he literally says
He's
coming.
making call outs.
He literally said coming for the big guys.
Let's go. That's crazy. I'm gonna check out that tweet right now just to read it myself.
And I've also noticed he's kind of trying to take on this like Elon Musk ish vibe on Twitter. I don't know if you see it, but like
I see what you're saying though.
he's putting out like these weird tweets, like quotes from Dune, and like it's like these kind of like meta quotes, and he keeps tagging Elon a lot. I don't know. It's clear that he's trying to establish himself as a respected voice in the crypto space.
I did miss the tweet today where he literally calls out Litecoin, which is pretty much a ghost chain. Like I remember when you first showed me Bitcoin, Alec, I think I bought some Litecoin, and that was probably the last time I engaged with it. It's been a ghost chain. I've not seen anyone talk about it until freaking Beniamin tweeted about it this morning.
It just kind of exists there, and it's kind of cool that he's saying he's shooting for the top 30. Like, what kind of things does this guy got brewing right now? Because he's made a couple of tweets about like just that things are going to start ramping up.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, and a point to be really excited about as well, given that the last time we spoke was 2 weeks ago, really before the Luna fiasco happened, as in just general downside price movement. There is a lot to be said when especially the big dog Bitcoin is kind of tumbling and showing weakness. And though Elrond, it has kind of fallen a bit in the kind of the tipping moment where Bitcoin did kind of start to roll over and fall, like Elrond was pushing. Like Elrond was literally green in the sea of red, as they say. And I think it's one thing to say, oh, green in the sea of red, if like low key you're talking about a shit coin. But the fact that Bitcoin started to roll over, and for I would say for at least 12 to 24 hours, Elrond was in fact showing some significant strength that was opposite to not just Bitcoin but other coins as well. So that's one thing to really pay attention to, is how is Elrond, or whatever asset you might be invested in, how is this Elrond, we'll talk about Elrond, how is Elrond performing in the midst of this overall environment? And then going on, the implications of that being Elrond hasn't been growing in price, but because everything else is falling around it, I'm not sure the exact rankings that were adjusted, but Elrond is climbing the ranks of coin market cap despite the price going down, currently sitting at rank number 34 on coin market cap. So I think it's great that Beniamin said, so break, I'm looking at the tweet now, break top 30 next 1 to 2 weeks. I mean, I know that Elrond is brewing some big things. We're well aware of what we have coming up in terms of simply, or just basically just NFT marketplace and the ETH bridge alone. There's a lot more coming. So I think honestly, for Beniamin to say break top 30 in the next 1 to 2 weeks, like, dude, like that, I think that that's very feasible. And there's still a lot to be said about, as you were talking about, his kind of aggression, or not aggression, but just kind of his pushiness, talking about Elrond. It was modest in the scope of where things are. And I'm looking forward to, obviously, these things that he's referring to. He put a little GIF, or not a GIF, but just a meme-looking kind of photo with all the other things coming. So top 30 is really cool to see Beniamin kind of like making claims like that. But again, man, like I guess I'm just trying to level with everybody. It's like, oh, like yeah, totally, like that's going to happen. Like breaking top 30 in the next 1 to 2 weeks, I'm always hesitant to put time frames on it. But yeah, break top 30, break top 20, like we go in a top 10, baby. And again, if you have been following along, I think that Elrond is a contender to flip Bitcoin, which would make it perhaps number one. But of course, if Bitcoin falls several ranks, then to flip Bitcoin doesn't necessarily mean it goes to number one. But I don't know. I mean, all of this is really just reinforcing the value that we're all acknowledging.
And I see some of these things that he has on this wave, the cards, and then the Maiar 2.0. And what gets me excited is lending.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty cool. It sounds like we'll probably be able to do some of the same things that ZOIDPAY does with their lending platform, and be able to gain off of lending out our crypto for other people to use.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued how many of these things are going to unfold. And there's a specific article on the Elrond blog. We'll link in the description. And the title of it is basically just Elrond DeFi 2.0. Elrond DeFi 2.0, autonomous banking, economic growth. And it lays out kind of the path for where Elrond is going to grow into. I think it was Alec, your tweet, or somebody mentioned how they would be interested to just like learn more about Elrond from our podcasts. And there's a lot that we could get into. So hopefully if we don't really get into the nitty gritty here, then we could at least put the resources in front of the audience to kind of go out there and gain understanding relatively quickly. Because from my perspective, when I first dipped my toes into Elrond, I was overwhelmed with what is going to come with Elrond. And, you know, this was back in 2019 when I first bought it, but I didn't really start looking into it until mid-2020 when mainnet launched. And with everything that comes out, with every box that's checked, I mean, at this point, like, I think that it's really just undeniable that, I mean, Elrond's not going anywhere, and they're going to execute on everything. The only thing that could get in the way is regulation. And regulation is something you can't know. It's just going to happen as something grows and progresses. So I remain firm that Elrond is not going to die if regulation comes along. They're going to continue to adapt and roll with any punches that come their way. And again, I want to emphasize that I believe they're going to deliver.
Regulation hopefully won't be too much of a concern, because I see Elrond making steps to already be compliant within the U.S. A couple days ago, maybe a week ago, they posted another blog article, and we can put that in the description, but it's talking about compliance with Anchain.ai.
Yeah, I saw Beniamin tweet about that.
Yeah, so it's a San Francisco-based company, and it's basically like fraud prevention, and it also helps with compliance across Europe and SEC compliance, which is something that's going to be important. It's really important for adoption to occur within the U.S. for a coin to take off.
Yeah, that's cool. I did not realize that they mentioned the SEC. I know that the SEC is the Security Exchange Commission, and they're really in charge of reinforcing these traditional markets in the United States. And they're always kind of like looking for opportunities, not opportunities, but they're kind of the regulators of the traditional markets here in the United States. And yeah, this reminds me of something else that I was looking at in Google Trends, and just looking at searches on Google for Elrond and kind of noticing there are peaks whenever Elrond has had some launches in the past. Like I remember there were peaks with like the Maiar smartphone application, the mainnet launch, which happened before the Maiar app, and then another big one peaked in in November when they launched Maiar Exchange. The vast majority of all of this traffic from these Google Trends is coming from Europe, and specifically, no surprise, Romania. And even though United States made the list, it was in 5th place, and Google Trends only shows like the top 5. In general, it's fair to say nobody's talking about Elrond in the United States. So talking about global adoption, the fact that one of the bigger markets. I'm not going to say that the US is most important, but one of the bigger markets, like very significant market to capture, is like not being touched at all.
Yeah.
And considering again the fundamentals, the value of Elrond, it's inevitable for Elrond to succeed. And at that point, then it's inevitable for the United States to adopt it as well. And we're sitting here accumulating, sitting on this gold mine as people are twiddling their thumbs in the United States, wasting money on different coins. Like, not to say that Luna didn't ever do anything that was good, but more specifically Ethereum and other products I won't get into. But man, there's just so much room for Elrond to grow.
It's really cool to see us to continue to build, and I believe today they actually just launched their new elrondbuilders.com, which is a new place for DApp developers and blockchain engineers to post their products without any verification or anything. You just put that stuff out there and you automatically get, or not automatically, but the community can engage in those projects, leave reviews, have suggestions and stuff.
That's awesome.
And it's like Elrond is like really positioning themselves to capture any of these developers that may come off of these, failed blockchains to come to one that it's easy to build on, and it's a good community to start building around. So it's great to see that they're even providing for the everyday or not the everyday developer, but the developers out there and the blockchain engineers to go ahead and migrate over to this ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And speaking just with regard to adoption, and Beniamin talks often about the zero-sum game, to where how in order to grow you have to take from others. So I think that right now it's easy to look at competitors for Elrond and the fact that Elrond isn't getting the spotlight that we all believe that it deserves. It's easy to kind of gain a little bit of frustration or even bitterness at some of these other chains that are coming along and getting more attention and more usage, but they're not as, in my opinion, and I think you'd agree, they're just not as good as Elrond, very simply put. So there are people, especially within Elrond too, that believe in, and even Beniamin believes that Web3 will grow into multiple assets capturing this multi-trillion-dollar market. So even though I'm invested in the Elrond ecosystem, I still support, Cardano, maybe not Solana, because I think that that's a little bit different. And, there's always FUD about, is this just like a scam? And I know that I see a lot of stuff on Twitter about all sorts of chains, and I know that Cardano has because it's been in the industry and it's because it's has a lot of eyes on it. It is a valid competitor in the space, therefore it's going to attract more scrutiny. But what I like about Elrond is, yes, I've been in the ecosystem and I've been following along for a little bit, so maybe that puts me at an advantage. But I still think that if I was brand new to Elrond, I'd be able to step in and rather quickly, I feel like I could gain a good idea of where Elrond is in terms of where they're building, where they've succeeded, where they're kind of moving to the next thing. But more importantly, I think that it's really significant how simple Elrond is laying out the future. Like everything to me, albeit maybe slow and not as quick as we want, everything is meticulous and step by step and very kind of visual representation of laying foundation, and they're not rushing things. And that's what I like about Elrond, is it doesn't have this baggage of years of promises that we've been waiting for, whether it be Ethereum 2.0 or, again, I kind of lean on Ethereum and Cardano a lot. But it's true, people have been waiting for Cardano to deliver certain updates, to deliver certain services, like their own DEX, I know is something recent. But Elrond is great because it's simple to understand where it came from, where it's at, and where it's going.
It's really cool to see the team continue to build, and recently they're continuing to build even on other integrations with other wallets, because Beniamin recently made a tweet about Trust Wallet now having ESD integration. So that's a big deal. Apparently MEX is on the Trust Wallet. I don't quite understand how the Trust Wallet works, but I just know that it now supports ESDTs, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, I saw that announcement and I kind of looked past it because I don't use the Trust Wallet. I'm not super familiar with what it is, but yeah, I'm looking here, and again, we'll put these links in the description. But yeah, I think his tweet said, and as this article says, the ESDT integration gives the app's users the opportunity to explore digital assets operating on the internet scale. That's what we know of. But yeah, I think you are right. It has literally in this picture, along with the article, it has all of these kind of top. It lists MEX a part of these other coins. So yeah, I'm not sure if it is. And in fact, I'm almost sure that this does not mean that you can buy and sell. Rather, you can just store. I mean, it is just a wallet.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's but it's a step forward, and Trust Wallet is, I think, a lot more popular in other ecosystems, especially Ethereum. So maybe people in Elrond maybe won't use it right now. Maybe it really doesn't mean something too significant for us. But to me, of course, it's a positive for what it represents, another avenue to hold your assets safely. And it's another opportunity for people to see an ESDT, whether it be Elrond or MEX or Holoride, Ethereum, ZOIDPAY, which is listed here. It gives people a chance to see, like I saw Elrond, weeks ago, months ago, I didn't care about it, because kind of how it goes in this space is you might see something once and put it off. You might see it twice, but like if you continue to see the same things, I think the intelligent investor would start to question what's going on there. So I think that Trust Wallet is just another place for people to see Elrond, and I think that that's a win for sure.
Yeah, dude, there's 25 million users of the Trust Wallet too.
Dang.
Yeah, so that's saying quite a bit. A lot more eyes for sure.
100%. So we'll look forward to seeing if that gains any other usage other than just kind of being a wallet. But yeah, that's exciting just to see, at bare minimum, the Elrond ecosystem being, or rather, other people like the developers of Trust Wallet. Like obviously there had to be some groundwork for them to integrate Elrond into their wallet, and the fact that they made this happen with Elrond, I think, is just one more. It may not be a huge big explosion green light, but it's just, I think, every little piece, every bit we can take to give us that confidence boost that we're in the right spot. I think you got to take and run with every little bit you can get.
Oh, for sure, dude, for sure. I continue to feel like I'm in the right spot.
So yeah, I guess we talked about UST and kind of what happened with Luna. The town hall was rallying the troops. So kind of the last thing I'll put out there anyway in terms of what's coming up update wise is just a tweet that from Beniamin on May 16th, so just like 2 days ago, and I think this was either a day or two after the town hall. But again, just touching on these things that when the time comes, you bet your ass Alec and I will be talking about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But just to touch on these real briefly, we've got the bridge coming up, NFT marketplace, MEX listings, MEX economics upgrade, Utrust UTK 2.0, and then it says new launchpad project, singular project. So a new launchpad project, which the last one was Ethereum. Ethereum was the second one, and the first one was Holoride. So we'll see. We talked actually a good amount about Ethereum in the last episode. So I'm excited to see what other project singular Elrond is going to throw onto the launchpad next, and of course that will lead to another listing on the DEX.
It's exciting stuff, man. And I don't think I've heard a single hint about what this next project will be. So it's going to be a complete mystery. And I just hope it's something world shattering, man. I want it to be, I want it to be like another Holoride, honestly, or something that's like, integrated by someone like Audi. Like that's just crazy that literally next month, man, there's going to be cars with Holoride in it. Next month is June, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you feel about, I know you kind of touched a little bit about your farming update, but just taking like a broader perspective at what Alex sees value in. I've moved my money around, like I said, and I have probably focused in just Elrond, Ride, and ZPay, but I'm curious to know what you think is valuable to hold right now, what you think is wise to be accumulating, and of course, why you think that is.
Okay, so as always, it's wise to accumulate EGLD in my opinion. So I have as I said, I accumulate EGLD when I see it dip into lows, and I'm honestly waiting for it to go down again. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm accumulating locked MEX as well. I
In
realized
terms
that
of farming or in terms of purchasing?
in terms of farming, I'm not
Okay.
purchasing any. I used to sell all my locked MEX on the locked MEX exchange, but now I've taken a step back and I decided to go ahead and put my faith in the team again. I mean, I never lost it, but I decided to go ahead and just start regaining more locked MEX because I'm like, you know what? If I continue to get a bigger bag of locked MEX and the APR goes down by a little bit, that means I'll still be earning more because I've accumulated more locked MEX.
Yeah.
You know, so I decided to go ahead and just start increasing the amount of locked MEX I earn. And I was selling all of my locked MEX to buy ZPay, and I still believe ZPay is a great asset to accumulate. The team over at ZPay continues to build just like the Elrond team. I see a lot of similarities in their tenacity for just building new things, and they're going to be a Formula One sponsor. And actually, I saw an article a couple of days ago about how F1 was the, I think, fastest growing sport in 2022. When they say F1 sponsor, I wonder if they mean that they're going to sponsor cars specifically, or you might see them on one of those banner things or like the blockade things as the racers are driving by.
I think that it is a driver. I think that what I plan to see is an F1 ZOIDPAY car. Like I'm invested in ZOIDPAY. No, not financial advice, not to shill, but I'm gonna frickin' talk about the things that I'm excited about, and therefore it's no surprise that my money is where I am excited about. So yeah, dude, like I made a thread because somebody asked me about Ride, what I thought of it, and kind of what growth potential has more between Ride and ZOIDPay. And I can say more about it after you share a little bit more about what you were talking about there in terms of assets to accumulate. ZOIDPay is really pushing to grow, and that's what has really kind of excited and intrigued me is at even a bare minimum, they've posted photos of billboards in Romania that say ZPay, and they do have an Olympian who is a brand ambassador, if you didn't know that. But yeah, and then this F1 sponsor, they've tweeted about it in such a way, I'm pretty sure that like that's a done deal. So whether it will just be, ZOIDPay logo on a car, obviously I think the best look would of course be, that beautiful ZOIDPay blue with the logo there for everybody to see. But so F1 sponsor I think will be a team.
Man, that's going to be really cool, and it's awesome to see them take this kind of like really just aggressive marketing strategy, and I'm really digging it, man.
It's honestly, like I'm a little bit like in the best way possible. Like I'm kind of like shocked / surprised at how often I'm seeing ZOIDPay. Like they're really making a lot of movements in terms of partnerships and growth.
Yeah, man, and they continue to get more and more people added to the team, especially in terms of advisors and stuff. I see them post about that all the time. So they're obviously always looking for new input and always looking for better ways to improve their project or product. So Edward, keep it up, team. You guys are absolutely killing it. But in terms of assets, man, that's all I am currently focused on.
So what do you have exposure to right now?
I'm exposed in ZOIDPay, locked MEX, and EGLD. I don't.
Got you.
I only have other coins because I'm also participating in meta bonding just because I have my EGLD staked.
That's cool. The simplicity of the DEX gives us opportunity to win, and if we change our decisions as to what's providing value in the world, and whether that be the metaverse world or the real world, we're already here in line, like we've kind of been excited about in the past. It's like we're already here, we're already familiar with the ecosystem. Like we see an announcement, something exciting starting to brew as we're kind of immersed in it. And whether or not you own it right now, whether it be Holoride or any of these other projects, it's like cool, like just swap over to it.
Stephen, I know people are always interested in your opinion. What are you trying to accumulate? What do you think is a good buy, or not a good buy, but just something that people should probably be looking into right now?
Man, that's a very good question. And in the past, I have been a proponent of spread wide and capture the whole ecosystem. But I think that I kind of agree with how you stated it in terms of, you said Elrond was kind of the number one, because I think that Elrond is the layer one, and there's a lot of value in there. And it's challenging for me, because the last thing I want to do is to just push what I feel good about and accidentally go or miss something that is doing really cool stuff. Because some of these protocols, or not protocols, some of these projects that are out there, like Aerovec, I know is doing something that is brand new to the industry of aviation. And while I don't own any Aero, like, yes, like even though it's not something I own, I think it's like cool. Like I think it's wise to gain some exposure to projects, like Aerovec. But there's also something to be said too about some of these other projects, and how doing your own research is always really just the most important thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm really hesitant to just like answer your question with pretty much exactly where my portfolio is allocated, because again, like I don't want to just use this platform, this podcast, Elrond, just to promote my own bag. Like that is the complete opposite of what I want to do. But as I kind of communicated a moment ago, it's like, well, I'm excited about certain things, and like you bet your money, or you bet your ass, I'm going to be talking about the things I'm excited about. But to actually answer the question, I am quite excited just in general. How about instead of naming particular projects, I want to kind of take a step back and more so just address the question from a standpoint of what projects fall into my scope of gaining interest. And basically what I want to segue into is just this conversation about what projects are going to be adopted by a different type of person, or people group or demographic, like how Holoride is tapping into an industry that nobody else is, both automotive in the crypto as well as this immersive extended reality. That's really cool. And ZOIDPAY to me is cool because and I maybe I'll post the link to the thread where I do compare and kind of contrast what I don't think is 10 out of 10 with Holoride, and why I have my money in ZOIDPAY, because there's a lot going on with ZOIDPAY. I think they're really growing, and I highlighted some really exciting tweets that, I mean, I literally discovered in putting together this thread, where kind of similar to how Beniamin has been kind of calling shots, like Edward is also very confident. And it should be stated once more that while ZPay recently bridged over to ESDT, they've been building since 2018, which, if you know Elrond, like, yes, Beniamin has a history that spans a little bit longer than that, but ZOIDPAY, they aren't new kids on the block. This isn't, oh, we see an opportunity here and we're going to do a startup. It's like, they've been building since 2018. They've been lining up their game plan. And as we spoke with Edward in our ZOIDPAY special, which watch if you haven't, it's a great, lots of good info. But like, they are just, they came to a conclusion to where Elrond made sense for them to build on. And this bridge was significant for the capacity of ZOIDPAY. But again, it shouldn't be forgotten that ZOIDPAY isn't a new project. Like, again, not to say that Holoride doesn't have history. It's not to say other, like Ethereum hasn't been building and lining things up for years. What always attracted to me to blockchain is what it's going to do for the world, and it's going to give financial opportunities to people who didn't have opportunities in the past. And given my degree in finance and just my heart really for giving power back to the people and to free them from these financial burdens of the way the world has been so far, I think just the fact that ZOIDPAY seems to have its heart set on capturing this opportunity to bring Web3 to the everyday person. They recently announced in a episode, it was a Ask Me Anything, and they kind of made an announcement that while on our episode they talked about how they've acquired a bank, it's going to be a brick and mortar bank. He said on our episode that it was going to be a digital bank. That's how he phrased it. But it's going to be a brick and mortar bank, just like you walk up to your Bank of America or whatever it is. And I don't know if it will say ZOIDPAY on it or if they'll have bank somehow kind of in the name, but it's going to be, I believe, something that will allow for adoption. It will allow this blending of people not really realizing that they're stepping into this cryptocurrency scary beast, because they're just going to be in front of a normal bank teller and they're going to be talking about finance. And I think that's why I'm excited about ZOIDPAY more than Holoride. And it's just a matter of what it's going to do for the world. And I want to say a lot more about my criticisms of Holoride, because I'm curious to what you would kind of respond to my critique, Alec, as well as I would love if people in the comments were able to provide their perspective of how I might be short-sighted in my bearishness of Holoride. But because the emphasis is that I'm excited about Holoride and I'm excited about ZOIDPAY because it's tangible for me. We talked in the last episode about how I'm not invested in Ethereum because I can't quite wrap my mind around it. And that's different, as I mentioned with Elrond. It's cool to see where they're going, where they came. And with Holoride and with ZOIDPAY, it's like, it makes sense to me. So I know that didn't answer your question, and I know that you weren't necessarily needing me to answer the question, but I guess that's my response.
You said you're bearish on Holoride, huh? Do you just not believe in what they're going to accomplish with the project, or is it just something that you're not personally going to use?
So, that's a great question because I'm not sure if I will ever use it. And that gets at a particular point in my thread that I'm not necessarily bearish on Holoride. Rather, I own Ride. It's just not as big of an allocation as ZOIDPAY. And to answer your question, or not answer the question, but to get at what you asked, it's like, well, dude, like I drive a Honda Civic and I'm cool with that. Part of the reason that I am where I am financially independent is because I've tried to live modestly and tried to buy, inexpensive cars and kind of run them to the ground. And I'm not chomping at the bit to buy an EV. I'm not chomping at the bit to buy an Audi. So basically what I'm saying is I think that there could potentially be, in the short term anyway, some resistance to adoption because you have to pay to play, literally. It's like you have to buy a car that has the technology, whether that be an electric vehicle or simply whether that be what right now is a class of vehicle that isn't for the everyday consumer. So I know that Holoride has partners like Audi and Porsche, which are more expensive. Mercedes is on there too. I see something from Ford. So obviously Ford has in the past been able to make cars that are a little bit more affordable. But that's kind of the big question I have is, one, I did some digging on this thread into the HoloRide token and what it will be and what it will be used for. And the way I see it is, again, let me know if you think, or people in the comments, if this is short-sighted. But I just think that for now, while the growth potential for Ride is extreme and perhaps immense even for this untapped industry, it's going to take time for it to develop. And I know we say that a lot about things in crypto, but maybe, again, I might be wrong, but the fact that the barriers to entry for Ride are elevated because you have to have the car first, And so it's like, okay, so you're saying HoloRide is going to blow up and it's going to be adopted massively, but it's like people don't have money just lying around to buy new cars with this technology. So really in this thread, I talk about how I'll just read the tweet. And then just not the tweet, but just two tweets that get at this, and then I'll leave you to respond. So I say, some shortcomings I see with HoloRide adoption and Ride token appreciation. Ride is designed to provide incentive to use HoloRide, per the HoloRide website. But for now, it appears HoloRide is only available to higher-end vehicles. This is a limiting factor to mass use and adoption. Before that point can change, that is, before adoption can kind of happen, I say that a mass-produced and reasonably priced EV must be made available to consumers. And the only company that I see is achieving this within 2 to 5 years is Tesla. They've already mass-produced higher-end EVs, so they can obviously show the capacity to create in volume, but I think that HoloRide is going to appeal most to the next wave of vehicles, which, as the environmentalists and everything turn over, it's going to be electric vehicles. So that means that they're going to have to create an affordable car. So that's kind of where I ended just that segment. And where I say Tesla might achieve that within 2 to 5 years. But I think at this point, perhaps the best opportunity is I guess if you're invested in HoloRide, it's like best case equals Tesla partners up with HoloRide. But Elon, we know Elon, like I'm sure he'd be faster to make his own version of HoloRide, maybe before he was willing to just, bootstrap HoloRide into Teslas. But again, like I feel a little bit too confident in that I think HoloRide is going to take some solid amount of time to develop this platform ecosystem adoption, and I feel so confident that it's going to take some time that I've got to be short-sighted. Like I've got to be missing something, and there always just comes back down to this chance that HoloRide might just grow solely because of the names that it has associated with it. These household names like Disney and Audi and so forth. So that was long-winded, I know, as per usual.
I think you bring up a very valid point about who they're partnering with and what kind of market share those people have. I bet there's statistics out there that show what kind of people actually purchase the Audis and if they have family or not. And I think that's a big factor as well, because it's not just, if you're just a single person purchasing an Audi vehicle that comes HoloRide equipped, that means nothing to you. You can't even use that thing because you're the driver. So really, it only means something to you
that's a good point too. Yeah, I didn't even include that in my perspective. So that's a great point.
Yeah, the market share is really small when you consider that, and you also got to consider that it's luxury cars, and most people with kids aren't going to be purchasing a luxury vehicle for them to be riding around in and play just for the fact that it has HoloRide. And Audis aren't cheap. We're entering a recession. I mean, inflation is huge. Like, I don't see this anytime soon taking off, maybe because it's an ESDT, or maybe because it's associated with those names like you say, but I don't see anything like that happening.
Yeah, man, excellent points. And also, in addition to kind of those questions I have with adoption, I this could have just been happenstance according with how the cryptocurrency market has been going. But in this thread, I refer to the ride tokenomics and the disbursement of early investor funds, how the vesting schedules unlock. So again, maybe it was just because we were in a bear market, but the last and the first time that Holoride released came past their first vesting schedule, looking at the charts, like it dumped whenever, like the day that those that vesting schedule hit, the coin dumped, and it hasn't gotten better. Like again, obviously that'd be ignorant to say, oh, that's the reason, but I think that there is something else to tack onto there. It's like, these big names attracted a lot of investors, and I put it on the thread. These private sales were at 2 cents and 4 cents, which Holoride right now is I'm not sure, it's close to maybe 50 cents or so. Holoride might have a little bit more work in front of it rather than just showing that it's a compelling product that's being brought into a untapped industry, because that's what excited me about it at the beginning. On top of that, Ride was outperforming even Elrond ever since it was released. But as things have moved on, opinions change, and it doesn't seem to be holding up in value as well as it was. And I'm a human. I'm going to behave similarly and take into account these things. So, I still own some Ride, but as ZPay took off and has been very clear in what they're doing in year 2022. I didn't mention that in this tweet that caught my attention was Edward saying simply, we are releasing all of our products in 2022. And in the scheme of accumulating assets, the longer something moves sideways, kind of like at that accumulation channel, like gives you a lot of opportunity to buy it. And just the way I see it is that Holoride might take a little bit longer time to accumulate, to digest these early investors perhaps selling off. Whereas, dude, like, look what happened with ZOIDPAY, the shopping sale and the staking launched price, and the volumes were immense. So and on top of that, ZOIDPAY gave out 150,000 ZPay proportionally to liquidity providers on Maiar DEX. So that's another incentive, is the liquidity for ZPay on Maiar DEX is relatively low, which means that liquidity providers are able to make a lot of money by collecting those transaction fees. So that's exactly why I've been moving my money into ZPay, is I think that it is beginning to make more sense to me for, everything we just talked about. But again, it's like one of those things that I feel too confident. So it's like I must be missing something. I must be a little bit too short-sighted. But I don't know, man. As long as ZPay continues to kind of push forward and give me confidence as an investor, my money's going to be where I feel confident.
And I think ZPay just shows a lot more promise than Holoride too. The project you continue to get updates from the CEO all the time on Twitter. They continue to release new things. So it's just kind of a no-brainer at this point. And yeah, like we said, the market share of Holoride is going to be small, and ZPay can appeal to the masses. So it's a really cool project.
I'm literally like, shit, man. Like, I'm about to log in on Maiar DEX while we're shooting, and I want to have exposure to Ride, but it's like, damn, dude, like, I want more ZPay. Like, I've already been accumulating ever since it's cooled off of its $1.75. But dude, like, I don't know. We're talking about it. It's exciting me, and we're biased. We spoke to the CEO ourselves, but the information is out there for everybody to learn as well. So as per usual, NFA, and do your own research.
Yeah, and I just hope that, I know it's going to happen eventually, but I'm just excited to see all the other ESDTs that eventually come onto Elrond, and see what other kind of gold mines are just going to be populated onto the DEX. And as they continue to put these kind of gold mines out there, man, that's really going to boost adoption. And they're just talking about this super wave. I'm ready for this super wave. Steven's ready for this super wave. If you're watching this, you're probably ready for this super wave. So
If
it's
you're
good
ready for the
stuff.
super wave, smash that like button. Let us know in the comments. For real, like, this is awesome that we have this community and Alec and I get to play a role in it. But seriously, like, this isn't us. Like, the Elrond ecosystem, what's at the heart of Elrond is this desire to change and to be inclusive and to bring in everybody into what's going on. So for real, like, yes, it helps the algorithm, but like, show people too that like Elrond is making waves.
Yeah, man, and it's going to continue to make waves. And as Benjamin said, we're coming for you, Ghost Chains. We're
Yeah,
coming for
man.
you. Top 30, here we come. Apparently in the next couple weeks or so. So I'm going to go ahead and take him at his word because obviously the dude has something up his sleeve. The way he's been tweeting, man, this is not coincidental.
Not at all. So that leads me to just want to talk a little bit about NFTs because that was something that Beniamin talked about recently too. Additionally, the Maiar Twitter account, which is at GetMaiar, created a pretty substantial thread talking about NFTs and what they are and what sort of value they can provide. It's simple to just think that NFTs are just JPEGs, but it being that it represents ownership, it can have utility, and obviously that's what a lot of people are kind of looking for in NFTs. So I know this was a hot topic more so in January and maybe December when things were really popping off. Things in terms of my camp have been cooling down. I haven't really definitely have not aped into any NFTs since January. I've maybe scooped up a few here or there, which I can mention. But yeah, Alec, what are your thoughts on NFTs? Have you any updates for the viewers on what I saw you sold an Elrond ape? I gotta ask about that. I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I decided it was time. Things aren't looking great in the market. I wanted some more EGLD in my bag, and I was like, I'm getting rid of this Elrond ape. It was a good purchase to begin with. I was among some of the first minters, so it's been a good ride.
I remember you
But
telling
also,
me about it, dude. I was bummed whenever I missed the mint, obviously.
it was kind of a messy mint, bro. You didn't want
Oh,
to be a part of
really?
it.
Well, actually,
Yeah,
dude, I don't know about it, and you never mentioned to me. What happened with the mint?
like most people weren't even able to get an ape. Like I was extremely lucky to do so. Like the transactions just were not happening. They continued to fail over and over and over again. But I was able to mint one for I think 0.5 EGLD. Right now they're sitting at about 7 EGLD per ape, and
Congratulations, by the way. Like that's such a win.
thank you, thank you. I continued to buy some after their mint date, but I decided to go ahead and get rid of my last one. The rewards, they weren't what I expected.
Because they were like staking, right? Everybody's been hyping up like Elrond apes were the first to stake.
Yeah, like you can stake your ape. Yeah, you stake your NFT and like you make money off of certain staking pools that they have, but like it's really like nothing to write mom about. If anything, Baby Degen Ape is the one that I appreciate more. I only own one of them, and one of my very first airdrops was like $30. All you have to do is hold it in your wallet. You don't even have to stake it. They're just sending out airdrops every 2 weeks of locked MEX. And I've seen people who own quite the bag of Baby Degen apes. And at the very beginning, they made like $1,000+ off of a locked MEX airdrop.
Yeah, that actually, I don't like to dog on things, and everybody has their right to accumulate and to ape in, but it was a kind of a red flag to me when there was a disbursement for Baby Degen apes and somebody was bragging about, oh, gee whiz, look at this disbursement I got. But you look at their ownership and they literally own 10% of the entire supply. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to be frugal with my Elrond, and that comes with much more scrutiny when it comes to, am I going to spend like, I don't know. What's the floor for Degen apes? Do you know?
Dude, it's like 1.5.
Yeah, that's not too bad, actually. Do you think that's high or low?
I think it's decently low, but also I only own one of them, and I bought it way too high. I'm not gonna lie, I bought it at like 4 EGLD.
Yeah,
But
just a small L, but hey, as long as you hold it, as long as you don't realize that loss, it's your freaking JPEG and fucking nobody can have it.
you're darn right, man. But
Well,
I'm
not
happy
just
with
your
that.
JPEG. You were just talking about utilities of it.
Yeah, it does provide utilities. It pays me just a little bit, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. And I think it's cool that I was even able to sell my ape for Eagle. Like, it's freaking wild, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
What? Yeah.
you and I.
What was that experience? Tell the viewers about what platform you used, what simplicity you had, how quickly it sold. I'm interested to hear kind of the
Oh,
seller's
it,
perspective.
it was super easy. I think I listed it a little high, and I got impatient. I think I could have sold it for the original price that I listed for. I listed it on deadrare.io.
Cool.
And it was as simple as connecting my wallet, and you just have to have it in your wallet. All you have to do is hit list NFT, set your price, and then it has a breakdown of percentages of the amount you will get once it sells.
Yeah.
And so I had it at this price for like a day and a half, and I was like, man, I just want this thing gone. And so I lowered it a bit, and since it was a spacesuit ape, I think it was below what most spacesuit apes sold for. So I think it was able to sell within, man, 3 hours, I think. Like, it's pretty crazy how
Wow.
quickly I was able to liquidate my NFT. Like, it felt pretty good. I mean, I sold it for like, I think 8 EGLD, which is not a
Really?
small amount. Yeah, like, I mean, it's
And
crazy, man.
was this ape one that you minted?
No, this was
Okay.
one that I purchased with locked MEX, actually.
Hey, I mean, maybe you could look back and if we remember, you could update us in the next episode, or you can just let me know personally because I'm curious to know what sort of liquidity you were actually able to make from your LockMex through that NFT sale.
It wasn't great. It doesn't matter. It wasn't
It is what it is. There'd be so many factors to look into.
What about you, man? How's I know during the NFT craze, I would say you were aping in pretty hardcore to a lot of NFTs.
Yeah, I just got so excited about everybody talking about and all the hype. You know, the hype really got to me. You know, I'm not immune to emotions either. I'm the economistic, but it's like, dude, I'm just a fucking human behind a screen. Like, I'm no better than anyone else. I'm not immune to aping into this and hype culture. So I basically just kind of imagined my position in Elrond and being right here as everything kind of kicks off. And I saw a lot of those NFTs that I bought early on as kind of, these not blue chips per se, but just kind of like, the grassroots, like where it all began type of thing. And, that is just a strategy that I took because, again, I haven't really bought any more. Maybe the most recent one that comes to mind because I liked the concept. It was the High Street Wolf Society. I think, and that I guess that for sure was the last mint. Sorry, I'm all over the place. The last mint that I participated in was High Res the rapper. He did the Piglet Homies, and if you're familiar with at least High Res in the Elrond ecosystem, he's a rapper that was big in NFTs on Ethereum, and he recently discovered Elrond and started moving all of his stuff over to Elrond. He's eventually going to bridge some of his Hog Homie collection over to Elrond, but High Res has really kind of shown people a really great example of what it looks like to be an NFT kind of creator, CEO, if you will. But yeah, have you heard of High Res? I know you're not on Twitter as much as me. Have you seen much of what High Res has been doing?
Yeah, I definitely have. I know he's currently partnered with Pit Panther on Twitter as well, and they're creating a music video with Pit Panther's Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I gave a listen to a little bit of the snippet that he's been releasing on Twitter.
Uh-huh.
He sounds pretty good, man. But yeah, I actually gave a little listen to his snippet of his video, and I like his flow, man. That's my first time I've ever actually heard High Res the rapper. But I like what he's doing. He seems to be building quite the community within the Elrond sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing great stuff, man. The music video looks pretty top notch, and can't
And
wait
I
to
think
see
there's going
where
to
he
be
goes with
a
his
comic
Hogwarts
book
collection.
associated. Sorry to interrupt. I think there's going to be a comic book associated as well. He's got like a collaboration between Hog Homies and Bored Ape Yacht Club. And it sounds like he's going to try to, shake it up a little bit by adding some ETH influencers, hoping to give some exposure to Elrond.
Yeah, man, it'd be dope. I'd really love that. And also, all these ETH guys need to know that gas fees don't exist over here, man. They need to hear it. They need to hear it.
Yeah, I wonder if there are any Ethereum people that kind of watch the podcast. I assume that most of our viewers are really just kind of like Elrond devotees. But yeah, I mean, if you're on Ethereum and you're a builder over there, my guess is that you're not coming to Elrond solely because of the ecosystem, the just how many people are already on Ethereum. Like, I think that's the only reason people aren't moving to Elrond, because it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a good artist and you want to share what you're making, like, why wouldn't you use Elrond? So that leads me to believe the only reason they aren't doing it is because they just see a big audience on Ethereum.
Yeah, that is true. And that's why I think it's super important that we finally capture the U.S. market share.
Yes,
and once
dude.
we do, man, it's gonna be no problem for us to hit that top 20, that top 10.
Dude, I mean, again, like, thinking about how much time we've essentially been just moving under $500, which is a big number, relatively speaking, but people are discovering Elrond and its value and accumulating at this price. So yes, dude, as soon as the cascade starts to as soon as the dominoes start to fall, I think that the United States is going to have essentially missed the boat on Elrond. Like, supply shock is going to ensue. And I never really kind of ended that conversation about Luna, but just to emphasize, like, bring it back down, it's like Elrond is a fixed asset in terms of supply. So there's not a math equation that's out there printing Elrond according to, some other stable coin. It's like, no, like, it's relatively straightforward. Obviously, it's very complex, but in terms of the supply metrics, the circulation and so forth, like, it is a capped supply. And it's like 31.4 million, I believe. But also that gets into the deeper protocol. The max supply of Elrond will probably never even get hit by how it was designed. Just again, for fun, I'll put some links in the description to refer you to what I'm referring to there, because Terra was a completely different product, and I dare say, in terms of my scope, there aren't very many other protocols that were doing what Luna was doing, because it was faulty, like, because it was a Ponzi. So obviously emphasis is be careful, but with Elrond, you're pretty safe for the time being. Things change, and as this Ethereum bridge occurs, bridging these two protocols and then these synthetics and these lendings, this ecosystem is going to grow, and there will always be, maybe Elrond or just the blockchain will prove this statement wrong, but like, there's always going to be an area for people to deceive or not deceive, but manipulate. I can't think of the word.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll never see a hole like that within the Elrond ecosystem. But yeah, people are always looking for weaknesses within an ecosystem, and gosh,
exploit.
Dang, they found it. Yeah,
exploit was the word.
And they've definitely exploited Luna, and Elrond continues to do their due diligence, especially with this bridge, because they even recognize it as a possible security weak point. So they continue to do self-audits, then they continue to do Battle of the Yields in order to make sure this bridge is ready. So
yeah,
it's really nice to see this emphasis on security, because, I mean, when something like that happens, that's a strike at your publicity, and
100%.
It's not bad publicity. That's just straight up bad publicity at that point.
Yeah, like, all publicity is good publicity, but like, no, like, security is probably number one.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, just to kind of end per se, or maybe not end, but we're getting into the deep end here. Our last episode was one of our longest, but there's the bigger the ecosystem becomes. I think inherently the longer these episodes might become, so we might just have to eventually increase our frequency, because there's just so much more that we could talk about and get excited about, but only so much time in a single episode. But at least I wanted to touch on what Beniamin said about NFTs, and then I'll put the resources in the description for people to kind of dig in a little bit deeper. And then of course feel free to keep on talking about NFTs if it gets you excited, Alec. But yeah, Beniamin just talks about NFTs on Elrond are fire emoji, and he says they capture the imagination, shape culture, forge new communities, organize new efforts, and expand adoption. A creative play, exploration, exchange at their best. So obviously it's a tweet, so it's kind of missing some words. But like I have been talking about with NFTs, is they're not just JPEGs. They offer utility. Obviously the NFTs as an investment, the royalties, the money that those creators derive from the sale of them, and then also just within Elrond, the NFTs and the record of ownership is immutable, whereas on Ethereum, because of the smart contract, it's going to be, I think, technically owned by a place like OpenSea. I'm not, like I said, I've never really used Ethereum in the past for NFTs, so all I know is that I don't have to worry, and that to me is just it makes me feel all the much more better about buying and interacting with NFTs on Elrond, because for the time being there is no area to exploit and steal NFTs like we've seen on Ethereum.
Yeah, and it's also a great place for artists as well, because it's such a easy way it's really easy to mint your NFTs, and it's really easy to get started selling your NFTs in Elrond. And so I think the ease of use is also super important for many people.
For sure. But yeah, man, I guess for anyone out there who has invested in any NFTs from Nogin, they have the Midas collection, those dragons which are called Nogins with a EN at the end. But the reason I bring them up is it kind of is a bookend to the NFT conversation, but also something that Nogin was doing was they were going to have a Nogin Con. So they were going to have an event where they bring creators in, and it was going to be like an NFT and also just a blockchain event. So that was something that I thought was really awesome, that they were bringing this very, kind of metaverse Web3 type thing that NFTs are, and they were going to bring it to real life by having this event. So that was unfortunately rescheduled to 2023, and they did that for financial reasons, as well as just the overall climate to where the stock market is not looking great and the Bitcoin hasn't been doing well. So I guess my question to you, Alec, is during these environments that maybe it might not make as much sense to push into something and take risks, what areas do you think we as NFT enthusiasts and also just cryptocurrency investors, do you see any opportunities for us, everyday normal people, to kind of push in and kind of and behave in such a way that disregards maybe this macro perspective of, oh, we might be in this recession, oh, we might be in a bad spot? Crypto is a place that can survive in a special kind of realm. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts or ideas as to what we can do to keep these gears not just turning and sustaining, but ramp up and really just keep everything pushing despite the price not going maybe where we want it to.
I don't know if you're gonna like my answer, man, but I think investing in NFTs during a bear market is just not the thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a luxury item, in my opinion. Buying art is like a luxurious thing to do, and I just don't think you're gonna really get the return that you're looking for when you're doing those kind of things. I think it's best to invest in the assets behind it, such as the currencies that or the ecosystems that support it, because I I just don't see it as being a great capture of wealth, maybe like the cryptocurrency is. At this time, it's a recession, so it just doesn't make sense to me to be spending,
Yeah,
my hard-earned EGLD on art, man.
totally. That's something too that brings into the perspective of where Elrond is, as we've been talking about in terms of adoption and price, because obviously being priced in Elrond means that a baby degen might be priced at, we'll just say like one Elrond, which right now is $90. So think
Yeah.
about earlier, maybe whenever they minted, whenever it was still one Elrond, but the price was higher. So that was kind of like a point that I was like, really questioning, but it's really just in the future, so you don't know, because, I gave up Elrond. I gave up individual Elronds, plural, for some of these NFTs, but, multiply the price I paid times its present value whenever I bought it, and imagine a world where Elrond explodes and the price, goes to four figures. And in a weird sort of way, it's not so weird, but it's like, well, as the US dollar of Elrond goes up, I mean, that's going to increase the underlying dollar value of the assets. So to me, that means that maybe that the prices will fall in terms of Elrond to incorporate, or rather kind of in response to the underlying US dollar value increasing. So it's kind of like this weird little kind of like mechanism there, to where adoption of Elrond in itself might cause the Elrond price of NFTs to actually, fall in terms of like the floor price, or, even the higher prices.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense because, I mean, spending 7 EGLD right now on a piece of art, $700.
Yeah.
Spending 7 EGLD when EGLD is at $500 a piece, that's a different story. Yeah, so it's much harder to pull the trigger on 7 EGLD when it's that kind of underlying US dollar value. I think that's a very valid point.
Yeah, to me, it really just depends on kind of, who's entering the market, because I don't think it's any surprise that what we saw happen over on Ethereum, and how many different projects over there just blew up in value. It's like, yes, like these JPEGs are selling for, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I think even millions at times. But think about the people who accumulated Ethereum when it was, a lower price. So I think my hope is, I guess anyway, that if Elrond is to grow and these floor prices in terms of Elrond are to continue rising, I guess the way I have to see that happen is that literally, like, prices just start to rise in such a way in terms of US dollar, that kind of how I dealt with buying NFTs was I didn't view the US dollar. Like, whenever I was buying a drifter's NFT that was, I can't remember how much, but, over 40, 50 Elrond, like, I wasn't, and maybe I was just like, didn't want to look at the US dollar value, but I was just like, oh, this is just like a few, like Elrond, and I've got enough of these to where I can spare it. So I think that is what we might have to rely on moving forward, is trusting that the Elrond, the underlying value of Elrond, will just be able to capture this audience that allows kind of us younger entrants or participants to, I guess, actually participate more heavily in NFTs. But, I'm just kind of speculating, and I think it's just always going to come down to adoption. And if we can capture that audience that obviously has money they're willing to throw around, because if we can capture Ethereum, people have been making money over there, and they're okay spending a lot of money on NFTs, as they've shown. So I think that, again, it just depends on adoption.
Yeah, man, it's going to be cool to see where this definitely new market goes, and I'm excited to see where it's at in 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, man, it's a lot to be excited about. Just to consider Elrond by itself. Again, that DeFi 2.0 autonomous banking article we talked a little bit about earlier. Just the steps that Elrond is going to take just as we move forward from here. And it feels slow in the meantime, and especially, during this bear market downtrend, capitulation, Luna craziness, who knows what. It feels like things move especially slow. But just the big takeaway is take some steps back. If you're getting too focused or too impatient on the market, it's our responsibility as looking out for ourselves to step away from something if it's becoming unhealthy, if it's becoming a detriment. That's just part of the story, is we've got to figure out for ourselves how we interact with this investment, whether it be Elrond or perhaps something like NFTs. With that being said, I think we've covered quite a bit here. Any other topics, any news pieces or hot items you saw in the news that you want to end us off with?
No, sir. I'm ready to wrap this up if you are.
Let's do it, man. Well, yeah, as always, Alec, thank you so much for your time, for being a wonderful co-host with great insight and thought-provoking pieces, both for me and, of course, for the audience. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, dude. It's always a pleasure doing this podcast with you, man. And can't believe this is our 10th episode and ready to make, a shitload more.
The train won't stop. And again, we're trying to line up some interviews and try to get some more exposure to people building on NFTs. So, if you're watching, do what you can to put our name, the podcast, out there in front of creators, in front of builders, because we'd love to get in the minds. And we're just two ordinary people here, Alec and I. And it's really special to get insight into the mind of a creator and especially developer, to where, I'm very unfamiliar with that. So thank you very much to everybody. Episode 10 in the books. Onwards and upwards from here. And that's all I got to say. Thanks, everybody.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's been an awesome episode.
Peace. Adios.